So hello and good evening, everyone. In last class, we have started our discussion regarding financial system, and I told you that any country's financial system basically have three main component. That is regulators, second is institutions, and third is market. So these are the three components of any country's financial system, right? And under the regulators, there is RBI, NABARD, SEBI, NHB, IRDA, Ministry of Finance, right? And in all of them, the most important role played by that is Reserve Bank of India, right? And in last class, I have explained you about the history of central banking and how RBI was established in India. What was the circumstances that have pushed for establishment of Reserve Bank of India? I have explained that thing, right? So just in a brief, circumstances was like कि when the Britishers came to India, they don't feel that कि there is a need of any central bank, but there is a need of banking. So they have established few banks. They are known as a presidency banks, right? These presidency banks were merged, and Imperial Bank of India was established. And at that point of time, right, at that point of time means since the days of Presidency Bank to Imperial Bank of India, it was Government of India hold the responsibility of currency management and exchange rate management, right? But after fiasco of 1922-1923 and post First World War related issues, it was felt that it is not right thing to give the responsibility of major economy like India at that point of time, currency management and foreign exchange management to the government. We need a professional agency. That is why, on the recommendation of Hilton Young Commission, also known as Royal Commission on Currency and Finance, right? Which institution was established? Reserve Bank of India was established. But initially, Reserve Bank of India was having the role of what? Currency management, currency management, and foreign exchange management. Right? These two roles were assigned to Reserve Bank of India, and rest of the role was fulfilled by Imperial Bank of India, like government bank, bankers to bank. All these roles were played by whom? Imperial Bank. But in 1949, Government of India has passed what? Banking Regulation Act. Banking Regulation Act. And in the same year, RBI was also nationalized. And with that, RBI's nationalization, RBI's nationalization and Banking Regulation Act, more power were given to the Reserve Bank of India. Right? More power were given to the Reserve Bank of India. So in that way, if you will see the history of Reserve Bank of India, 1935 to 1960s. This is the phase when RBI was loaded with more and more of work responsibility. In this phase, more and more work is given to the Reserve Bank of India. But in late 1960s, government and RBI both themselves realized that central bank is getting overburdened and it is not able to completely focus on its core area, right? So that is why then NABARD, right, NABARD and other institutions were started emerging, right? So from 1970s onwards, we can say that ki RBI is looking for more and more its main function, that is currency management, debt management. In fact, regarding the debt management of government, there is a difference of opinion in India, in Reserve Bank of India and Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance have generally have put their reservation. What they put their reservation? They have put their reservation. What we need a dedicated public debt management agency. Independent. Independent means RBI should not hold this responsibility. The public debt management agency should be there, and that public debt management agency should function as a debt manager to the government. As of right now, it is Reserve Bank of India which is managing what the responsibility of government's debt manager. So government, this proposal of the government is outrightly opposed and criticized by the Reserve Bank of India many times. Right. RBI is saying that if the role and responsibility of debt manager is going to given to any other independent agency, then it is going to be very difficult for the Reserve Bank of India to do its work. Its work basically currency management, and the currency management have the integral part of the government debts management. So this is the kind of difference of opinion is there. Though many committee and commissions they have recommended for independent debt management agency, and proposal is also there from the government, but to be very honest, that proposal is not taken very seriously from the government side, and RB always red flag this proposal. So as of right now, this is the position regarding RB's role with respect to different thing. So if in nutshell, if we will compare overall, RBI still have the apex body in our country and fulfill lot of role and responsibility. Moving further, just want to brief you about structure of central bank in India. So there is what? There is headquarter, then regional offices, and then branches. Right. Headquarter is at Mumbai, four regional offices, branches, 28 branches. So in that way, central bank works. Right. So this is the structure of Reserve Bank of India. Now, functional hierarchy. Not going to too much detail, just Central Board of RBI, Central Board of Reserve Bank of India, Governor, Deputy Governors, then Regional Directors. Right? Central Board of Reserve Bank of India have maximum 21 members, one governor, four deputy governors, and four regional directors. These regional directors are head of these regional offices. So the central board, which have 21 members, it is 1 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 10. 1 is governor of RBI, 4 are the deputy governors, 4 are regional directors, 2 officials from Ministry of finance, and there are 10 people, right? These 10 people are nominated by government of India. They are basically expert from different field. Expert means maybe that some industrialists will also there, like Kumar Mangalam Billa. At a point of time, he was also part of central board. So different section of the economy have representation. Maybe a professor in economics who have good expertise in the agriculture field, he may be appointed as a director in the central board, so that he can present his views regarding to the agriculture sector in the central board's decision making. So highest decision making body in the Reserve Bank of India, that is the central board. So any kind of overriding thing or very crucial thing, it is being decided by whom? Central board of directors. Apart from that, this hierarchy, RB have more than 22 divisions, and those divisions work separately in the sense that they have their own role and responsibility, and they function in that domain, right? Any kind of big decisions, then it is going to be taken by what? Central board. Otherwise, normally it is different departments, and the departments, they report to deputy governors, and deputy governors report to governor. In that way, it is a pyramidal structure. In that way, RB works, right? Now, the most important thing regarding what? Functions of RB. Functions of RBI, right? Just give me a minute. Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Now it is audible. Vishant, Aniket, is it audible? Okay. So what I just told you that ki RBI perform lot of functions, but basically our focus is the monetary policy function. So what I will do, I'll brief you other functions, then I'll back to the monetary policy function in detail, right? But the other functions I have to just give you the brief. So I'm briefing about the other functions. Sorry, I have forgot to unmute. So the first other function means main function is monetary policy function. The other functions in that list, the first I started discussing about the bankers bank function. So bankers bank, the thing which bank provide us, the same thing provided by the Reserve Bank of India to banks basically at the time of lending and depositing, right? So lending and depositing facility is provided by the Reserve Bank of India to the uh, banks in India. That is why Reserve Bank of India consider as a banker's bank. But one more thing you have to remember here, if in particular area or because of particular reason Reserve Bank of India is not available to perform the function of banker's bank, then on the behalf of Reserve Bank of India, this function is performed by State Bank of India. When the Reserve Bank of India, its branch or its system is not available at that point of time to perform the function of bankers bank, then this role is performed by the SBI. And in absence of SBI, then there will be any nationalized bank. After that, no more speculation. Like if nationalized bank will be not there, then who will perform? Such conditions are not possible. Either RBI, if not RBI, then SBI, if not SBI, then any nationalized bank, it is going to perform the function of bankers bank, right? Other most important function is lender of the last resort. Lender of the last resort means for banks, financial institutions, state governments, corporations. Corporations, basically government owned corporations, not private corporations. So corporations owned by the government, companies owned by the government, right? Uh, Public sector banks, even the private sector banks, financial institutions, if the conditions are going to be developed in such a way that organization or institution or government owned company or state government owned company is not getting fund from anywhere, then in that case it is Reserve Bank of India can provide the liquidity or monetary requirement, including to government also. That is why Reserve Bank of India is defined as what? Lender of the last resort. Sometimes to confuse the students, especially in the objective question, they mention IMF, International Monetary Fund. For example, right now Pakistan is looking funding from the International Monetary Fund. So sometimes students get confused. Ki maybe IMF or World Bank will be considered as what? Lender of the last resort. Can anybody tell me here ki why IMF cannot be considered as a lender of last resort or only RBI will be considered as a lender of last resort? Anyone? Why it is RBI, not IMF? In fact, when any country like whether it is Sri Lanka or Pakistan, in past India have suffered a big financial crisis in 1991, it was IMF came to the rescue. Then why not IMF is considered as a lender of last resort? Why RBI is considered as a lender of last resort? Anyone want to answer this question? What do you think? Why it is RBI, not any other financial institution like IMF or World Bank? No one? No idea. Acha. Apart from Aniket, Vishant Verma. Okay, all right. See, IMF and World Bank, they do provide funding only in specific cases, not for everything. Like IMF is going to rescue only to whom? Only to the sovereign. Sovereign means the government, right? So they come to rescue to sovereign and in the case of financial crisis only. Similarly, the World Bank will come into the picture when the development assistance is required. So they will provide a development assistance, right? Whereas when the lender of the last resort is there, then any institution or any financial systems constituent is going to face any issue and it is not able to get the money, then it is their central bank, they provide the assistance. That is why central banks are considered as a lender of the last resort. And basically this term lender of the last resort is used in the context of especially government. Government borrow the money, and this borrowing is done through either treasury bills or government bond. In Indian context, short term, for short term loan it is treasury bill, for long term means more than 1 year, up to 1 year, right? It is known as treasury bill, and more than 1 year, up to 30 years or even 40 years, it is known as what? Government bond, right? However, in US, they are known as treasury bonds. So sometimes students get confused, especially those students who refer Investopedia. Remember that Investopedia is a good source. They explain in a very good manner. I appreciate their effort. They try to explain each and every term in very finest way by giving examples also. But the problem is many terms or terminologies, there is a difference between Indian context and US context, for example, in this case. So they use the term only treasury bonds. Treasury bonds means any securities which is issued by the government to borrow the money, that is treasury bonds, whether it is of 6 months or it is of 6 years or 60 years. They use the term treasury bonds. In Indian context, treasury bills are short term government securities, government bonds are long term government securities, right? So, just for a clarification. So when the government have to borrow the money, right? So that borrowing is facilitated by the Reserve Bank of India, right? Here with the lender of last resort, you can also understand the function of Reserve Bank of India as bank to government, right? Bank to government, right? And bank to government, you have to understand this bank to the government in two separate way. One is government of India and state government. So first understand bank to the government of India. So bank to the government of India. Why I have separated, I'll explain. I want to just explain in the separate manner. Though in the books you are going to find bank to the government, they'll explain कि RBI facilitate lending for the government. That is why bank RBI is known as bank to the government of India. But here I want to explain in the detail. It is going to give you the more clarity and you will enjoy that knowledge, right? So the thing is, bank to the government of India means when government need money. So for the government sources, revenue sources, what like tax, fees, fine, right? Selling of government assets through the disinvestments, right? Selling like recent 5G auctions, spectrum selling. So government sell its sources resources, auctioned it, right, provide the lease. So in that way government get the money, but sometimes or many times or most of the times it is not sufficient to fulfill the government's expenditure. Then government went for borrowing, right? And this borrowing is to be facilitated by the central bank. So central bank is going to sell the government securities in the market. If a situation is going to arise, there is no one in the market to purchase the government securities, right? There is no one's interested to purchase the government securities. No, private entities are not private entities. See, banks are eligible. Banks are eligible. Financial institutions are eligible who comes under the RBI's framework, and RBI provide the guidelines for that. They are eligible for borrowing for the from the Reserve Bank of India as per the framework. Like NBFC's framework is there, bank's framework is there. So those who are under the framework, financial institutions definition, they are eligible for borrowing in certain circumstances, right? Even if they are private. But apart from financial institution, there is no provision for borrowing from the Reserve Bank of India. They are not entitled. They are not entitled. But RBI can come into the picture in order to rescue them, right? RV can come into the picture. For example, few years back when the mutual fund industry was facing a crisis, RBI have provided a kind of a stimulus to them, mutual fund industry, right? So as in general, there is no such provision ki private system, private companies, they are entitled for that. Ki they can claim ki no, under this function of the Reserve Bank of India as a lender of the last resort, you are responsible to provide us loan because we are facing certain crisis. That is not like that. But if RBI want, they can step in order to rescue that industry. This is why they are known as a lender of last resort in other context. Okay, Aniket, is it clear? Okay, so let's move forward. So I was explaining about government bank and government bank to government of India's bank, right? So government need money. For that they want borrowings, and for borrowings they will issue the treasury bills or government bonds, and that is going to be sold by Reserve Bank of India on the behalf of government of India. RBI is going to sell those bonds and treasury bills. In case if nobody is purchasing, then it is going to be purchased by whom? RBI. That is why Reserve Bank of India is considered as what? RBI is considered as bank to the government of India plus lender of the last resort in the government context, right? Government context, and especially in the government of India's context, right? Now, the state government's context, right? As per constitution, right? As per our constitution, states are not allowed to borrow directly. They do not have this power to borrow from Reserve Bank of India directly, right? They do not have this authority. Constitution do not allow. It is government of India which allow the state governments to borrow. What it means? It means it is the parliament can fix how much state can borrow. For example, right now, states in India can borrow 3.5% of state gross domestic product. State's gross domestic product, whatever the state's gross domestic product is, up to 3.5% you can borrow, right? Means you can issue the bills like treasury bills and government bond, and you can borrow. Beyond that, it is not allowed as per the parliament's law. Parliament have made a law. Parliament means, see, in the parliament government holds the majority, right? Government hold the majority, and if there is any issue which is related to money only, there is a provision of money bill. just little bit understanding of the polity side. Parliament have three parts. One is president, lower house, that is Lok Sabha, and upper house, that is Rajya Sabha. So any bill can become a law when it is passed by both houses and signed by a president, right? But in case of money bill, no need to go in the definition. What is the definition of money bill? Just a basic understanding. Anything which is related to appropriation of the money, right? Money is being withdrawn. Money is going to be spent, right? Or it is going to be, means when the money is involved. Any legislation, any law which is supposed to be made, and it is involving the money only, right? Then it is defined as what? Just giving you the basic understanding. I can explain in the detail, but it is not required you right now, right? It is not required right now. That is why I'm not going in the detail. Just for your basic understanding, any bill means a proposed law which is going to deal only with the money, right? Spending of the money or collection of the money only with the money, then that can be defined as what? Money bill. And the provision is special for the money bill. It's presented only in Lok Sabha, and once the Lok Sabha is going to pass, Rajya Sabha must pass this bill within 14 days. Within 14 days, it must be passed. If Rajya Sabha is going to return or reject, suppose that they have not passed, they have rejected कि no, we do not want to consider this bill. ले जाओ इसे वापस, right? One case, Rajya Sabha passed but made certain changes, right? In that both cases, bill will again back to where? Lok Sabha. But if Lok Sabha is not going to take any action and 14 days are going to be over, then that money bill will consider automatically passed. Automatically passed. If Rajya Sabha is going to pass that money bill within 14 days, well and good. If Rajya Sabha is going to make any change or reject, it will go back where? It will go back to Lok Sabha, right? And if means Lok Sabha is not going to take any action on the rejected bill or amended bill, if it is not going to take any action and 14 days is over from the date it is sent to the Rajya Sabha, bill is considered automatically passed. Again, if Rajya Sabha is going to hold that bill for that 14 days, not going to take any action, holding it, again it will be considered as what? Again it will be considered as passed. So in the money matter, it is complete power held by whom? The entire power held by Lok Sabha. And Lok Sabha, in the Lok Sabha, government of India have the majority party is there. So that is why government control the finance position. So this is why in that context, it is the government of India which controls the ability of states to borrow the money, right? So in that way, the borrowings of state is limited, but again whatever the amount they can borrow through whom? Reserve Bank of India. And recently in last 6 months specifically, RBI many times has raised this thing. States borrowing are continuously rising means states have borrowed in past and they have not returned that loans, and they are again and again borrowing. And especially they have mentioned there are 6-7 states whose borrowing are a issue of concern, right? So that is showing states borrowing is gradually becoming a problematic thing. In fact, Prime Minister few days back, he just pledged to the states to return the money of discom, means the power distribution companies, power generation companies. States hold lot of bill of those power generation companies. You have to return. And question is why they are not able to return? Because they already have lot of liabilities to repay and they are borrowing further. So that's why the liability to pay principal and interest amount is getting increased, and because of that pressure they are not able to pay back to the power generation companies. And if the power generation companies are not going to get that money, maybe for them it is going to be default like situation. So there is a possibility of crisis in the power sector, and if the big crisis is about to come, then who is going to step in? First the government of India, right? And then if required, Reserve Bank of India can also intervene if required, right? So in that way RB can function as a lender of the last resort for the power sector also. But here because government is in straightforward position and it is a sector which is responsibility of the government, right? So RBI is not going to intervene in this sector directly. If a bank is going to have a problem, maybe RBI can intervene directly. What means directly and indirectly? In the case of power sector, government in the consultation with the Reserve Bank of India can announce a package. For that, money is going to be facilitated by the Reserve Bank of India through bonds and treasury bills, right? In that way. Whereas in the case of what? Whereas in the case of banks, RBI can take a suo moto kind of the action. Maybe the loan is going to be raised by Reserve Bank of India directly, and that can allow the financial institutions in India, including bank, to borrow from them. So this is one difference. When the RBI is in its domain, like regulating the financial system, then RBI can intervene directly. If anything which is out of the purview of financial system, like financial institutions, banks, mutual funds, right? Financial institutions like NBFCs. So in that case, RBI can intervene directly, any part of the financial institution system. But if it is out of the purview of financial institutions like power sector, it is one of the part of economy, right? In that case, mm, are you able to see the screen? Is there any issue you are facing? Because on my screen sometimes this image is going fine, smooth. Please comment immediately. Or you are facing any issue. Acha, okay. Glitch is there, no? Not is stable. Is it stable right now? Okay. So in that way, RBI functions as what? RBI functions as bank to the government of India. This start you can keep in your mind, though it is frequently used in the newspaper also. But this is one good fact you should keep in your mind. Ki states can borrow 3.5% of their state gross domestic product. Okay, that is bankers bank to the government of India. So bankers bank to the government of India. Next is another very important function, forex management. Forex management, actually the forex management you can understand in the chapter of balance of payment, right? Just giving you the brief here how RBI manage the forex. Forex stand for foreign exchange, right? So foreign exchange management. So under Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA, RBI hold the responsibility to what? stabilize, stabilize exchange rate, checking inflow and outflow, not just checking, and manage inflow and outflow of foreign currencies and Indian rupee, right? Maintain foreign currency reserves. So all this responsibility is performed by whom? All these functions are performed by the Reserve Bank of India under its responsibility of foreign exchange management. And all this power drawn by the Reserve Bank of India to stabilize foreign exchange, checking and managing inflow and outflow of foreign currencies, including Indian rupee, maintaining the foreign currency reserve. All this power is assigned to the Reserve Bank of India under Foreign Exchange Management Act. When we say the stabilize the exchange rate, in exchange, depreciation and appreciation term is used. Other the set of term is devaluation and revaluation is used. Right? Depreciation, appreciation, devaluation, revaluation. So depreciation and appreciation terms are used in the context of what? They are used in the context of temporary increase or decrease in the value of rupee with respect to other currencies, especially US dollar, right? Especially US dollar. When it is permanent increase or decrease in the value of currency, then the specific term is used what? Devaluation, decrease in value, revaluation, increase in value, and depreciation, temporary decrease in value, appreciation, temporary increase, right? So in this way, appreciation and depreciation. Now when appreciation is required, when depreciation is required, that depends upon countries overall trade volume and balance of payment situation. So again, I will let you know in detail balance of payment how it works. But as of right now, the thing is you should just know the power of Reserve Bank of India in this context. So it is Reserve Bank of India. Government is not going to intervene there. It is Reserve Bank of India. Time to time, when RBI feels that now the rupee value is depreciating too much. For example, in the recent context, RBI was having this mindset, and RBI's calculation was like if $1 is going to 80 rupees, right? 80 rupees, that is manageable. So if rupee is heading towards 80 rupees per dollar, right? If rupee is heading towards 80 rupees per dollar, that is cause of concern, but it is manageable. So we can allow the slide up to 80 rupees. Any slide beyond the 80, it is going to create a problem. So this is what RBI is understanding in the recent overall business and economy outlook. While considering all other economies their position, RBI found that it is 80 rupees per dollar. Is it going to be okay? It is not going to be the very challenging kind of the thing. Sliding up to 80, it is manageable. So RBI have made up things, and it is going to be like that okay, we will make sure that it should not slide further, right? It should not slide further after 80. So here it is like if it is going to at 78, right? So if it is going to be at 78, it is going to fluctuate. When RBI is considering 78, so it is going to fluctuate. Fluctuate means the value can go to 77, value can go to 79.5. So this fluctuation plus 1 plus 1.5 minus 1 fluctuation is quite possible. So if RBI is looking 78, then value can go to what? Value can go to high as like 79.550 paisa. 79 rupees 50 paisa can go there. But if RBI is going to consider what? RBI is going to consider it is 80, then value may be slide to 82 or 79. The upper slide is always higher than the lower slide, right? Because value is continuously decreasing. So if value is continuously decreasing, there is a high possibility of further decrease. So when I say 80, what it means that RBI is not going to allow the lowest value of rupee below 80, right? That means RBI have to settle rupee somewhere around 78 rupees 30 paisa for say. So RBI have to make efforts to maintain the rupees value somewhere around 78.50, 78.30, 78.70. That value is okay. In that way, maybe maximum or sorry, minimum value can go to $1 is equal to 80. But in any case, RBI will not allow sliding after 80 rupees. RBI is going to take a lot of measures to push the lower band maximum to 80. So these kind of the decisions is being taken by the Reserve Bank of India after considering lot of factor. What is the situation in the international economy? What is the situation in the international political situation, like rising tension between China and US in the Taiwan context, Russian-Ukrainian war, what is the OPEC countries stand, the oil producer countries stand. So all these things have to be considered, right? Because any kind of over measures is also going to backfire. If you will try to push your currency too much, it is also going to backfire. So after considering all these factors, central bank, this RBI, is going to decide what should be the price band of rupee, right? So these are decisions made by the Reserve Bank of India through its own way. Government interference in such a case is almost negligible. Government do not interfere in such kind of thing, but government also provide its own input, its own concern they'll provide. So while taking those decisions, RBI consider all those things, including government's perspective, government's view, right? But it is RBI decides. Similarly, how much foreign exchange reserve should be there? Again, it's a decision of Reserve Bank of India. It should be at $650 billion, or we have to aggressively increase to $700 billion, or we have to decrease it to $600 billion. That is the strategic decision of the Reserve Bank of India, right? So RBI take this decision in this context. That is why the forex management is completely under the preview of what? The Reserve Bank of India, right? Any doubt or question here? Again, means this function of the forex management you are able to understand when the balance of payment will come. But as of right now, just a preliminary understanding what is appreciation, depreciation, what RBI is having a role and responsibility in the case of forex management. Just a basic fundamental you should know. Rest of the thing will be discussed in detail later. Any doubt or question here? Some role in payment and settlement. Payment and settlement means in our financial system the payments are being made from one party to another party, from one financial institution to other financial institution, from one bank to another bank. Check truncation is happening. So for this payment and settlement, right, the payment and settlement, basically right now there is a clearing corporation of India, right? Clearing Corporation of India, a dedicated agency which is responsible for clearing all these payments and settlements. Though the rules and regulations for Payment Corporation of India and all other master guidelines is given by whom? Reserve Bank of India, like RTGS, NEFT, all these guidelines are given by the central bank. So in that way, RB play the most important role, or it is the final adjudicator or regarding the payment and settlement system in our country. It is RBI is going to allow like UPI payment. Like recently RBI have take this action key for the credit card, those credit card which are rupee credit card, for that UPI payment can be allowed. So that payment is acceptable or not, right? Like, can you use the UPI for the credit card? As of right now, credit cards are not being allowed to use the UPI payment interface, right? But RBI has given in principle kind of the approval to RuPay enabled credit cards to use the UPI payment. So that payment is going to be allowed or not, right? This is decided by whom? Reserve Bank of India. RBI provide the guidelines, RBI give the directions, RBI provide the instructions ki what kind of the payment is acceptable, what kind of the payment is not acceptable, right? Like Bitcoin. So Bitcoins are not being consider as a legal tender, right? So who can decide? It's a Reserve Bank of India who can decide ki no, this is not a authority, right, for the payment system in India. So it is Reserve Bank of India is going to decide, right? And if RBI is not having this power, right, in case, then RBI is going to approach Ministry of Finance and Government of India is going to come with the legislation in this regard if required. For example, when the Finance Minister presented the budget this year, she made it clear that cryptos will be what? Cryptos are going to be finally taxed, right? So some people have understood that if they are taxed, that means it's legal. No, it is not legal. Then government has clarified later, means ministry officials has clarified. They clarified that cryptos are going to be under tax. It doesn't mean that they are legal in India, right? They are not legal in India, and it will be taxed. And government very soon will come with the master guidelines in terms of law, right? Because at as of right now, RB Act 1935, right? RB Act 1935, Banking Regulation Act 1949, there is no clarity regarding digital currencies, right? So government very soon is coming with the legislation. In that context, one more thing, like central bank digital currency is also going to be the picture. So central bank digital currency is going to be used for the purpose of payment and settlement or not. Who is going to give the master directions? It is Reserve Bank of India. That is why we will say that it is the Reserve Bank of India provide the authority and related laws with respect to payment and settlement, right? Now, uh, we have to start the most important function, that is monetary policy function. Monetary policy function, and generally function of issuer of currency. Function of issuer of is taught separately. But what I feel that under the monetary what how RBI issues currency, and then currency management to monetary policy. It is continuously fluctuating. Sometimes screen is appearing, sometimes screen is disappearing. Acha, means I thought that I'll explain this currency function, but current and monetary policy tomorrow. I'll do one thing. I'm winding up session right now. I'll talk to Ashokji in this regard. Why this technical glitch is coming again and again. Ending up this from my end, but I think there is some technical issues there. Even Ashokji cannot solve it because I think this is the issue of this streaming platform again and again. Because from my side, I'm sharing my screen. There is no on and off of sharing of the screen, but from the platform again and again it is switching. Sir, in app also the same problem. Okay, I will talk to Ashok sir. I'll talk to Ashok sir right now after this session. Okay. So today I'm winding up this session. Tomorrow join at 8:30, and tomorrow the session is going to be quite important. Do not miss it. If you have any doubt or question, you can be ready. You can ask the doubts and questions, because as of right now I see very little participation from your side. Only one or two people are participating. Okay, tomorrow the session is going to be important. Please be in the session. We'll discuss in the detail. Okay. So thank you for joining. We'll start tomorrow.